This song is about being who you are, actually, so I thought it was appropriate for this event. We all have the right to be who we are, and it's a lot happier that way, too, I think. I am a teen child, I am the Dragon King's daughter. No harm will come to me. I am a dragon girl, I dwell in a palace on the bottom of the sea. The sun and the moon are listening. And the sun and the moon are listening. I have my sword, I move about without fear, 'cause if there's fear, there is no use. I have an iron staff, strong as a demon, I need faith, I need courage in you. So I pray to the sun and the moon. So I pray to the sun and the moon. So I must believe in you with my whole heart. You're gonna take me away. I must quench my thirst with clean water. Not my desire, not my desire. Ooh, I'm gonna bring it before you to teach you, to show you. I'm gonna bring it before you to teach you, to show you. I can choose to make you. Right before your eyes. I can choose to make you. Right before your creo en mi corazón entero. No me puedes salvar. Saciar mi ser con agua puro. De mis deseos, de mi deseo. I am the Dragon King's daughter. No harm will come to me. No, no. I am a dragon girl. I dwell in a palace on the sea. And the sun and the moon are listening. And the sun and the moon are listening. And the sun and the moon are listening. Thanks a lot. My name's Rhythm. This is my dad, Papa Sean over here, and my brother, Evan B. They're true allies. And my sister from another mister, Miss Laura Payne on the bass here. And my other sister from another mister, Miss Julie Yu on the drums. My name's Rhythm. Thanks so much to Lisa for having us be a part of this awesome event.
I'm very honored to be here. And I support all that is here today, tomorrow, in our future, with the blessings and honor from my heart and my people. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, their bombs bursting in air, gave truth through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, send us that star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Forward, march.
I was prepared to be down there. So, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for coming today. That celebrates LGBT Pride for our lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender population and community. This is awesome. And I want to thank some of the pioneers who made this possible today, because this truly is a pioneering event. First of all, Lisa Kove, thank you very much. Again, to our EO Director, Sara, Hice. And their very capable assistants, E.J. Jacobs, Love Cortez, Jerry Halbig, Rhonda Hunt, Joanne Santangelo, and Evelyn Thomas, and of course, Linda Sanders. I'd also like to thank our PAO staff, led by Mike Furlano, who have really teed this up and made this all possible. So again, welcome. As you all know, here at FRC Southwest and North Island General, we are home to a very diverse workforce. Very, very diverse workforce. As our year goes by, we take pause to celebrate the richness that this diversity brings to our organization, knowing that as a team, we are stronger as a united force in support of our mission, which is support of our nation's warfighters. And while many events have been and will be going on in installations throughout the country, I throw in this shameless plug for the pioneers who made this happen, because I truly believe that this is the best one that we will experience in DOD. So awesome again. In June 1963, President Kennedy made a speech about diversity that really applies today. He said, I would love to channel him through me right now, but forgive me, I'll have to speak more of a German accent than that New England one. But if we cannot end our differences, at least we can help make the world safe for diversity. In the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this planet. We all breathe the same air, we all cherish our children's future, and we are all mortal. Wow. He said that over almost 50 years ago. That is amazing. I agree with President Kennedy. We should be celebrating our differences, while recognizing, indeed, that we are all very similar. It is in this richness of our similarities and in our diversity that has allowed us to craft a nation that is the beacon to the world. In our diversity, we represent the premier workforce of government employees and military personnel that on the world stage is second to none. All of us have played a part in that, and every single one of us should take pride in celebrating so every single day. This country and especially the region we live in, is rich with diversity. Those unique characteristics that make each of us different from one another also make life more exciting, more enjoyable, and more fulfilling. Diversity allows us to see problems from many different angles, using our own personal perspectives, and individually thinking in ways to approach problems that are more creative and offer a much more well-rounded solution. In short, as I said earlier, when we stand together, we are all stronger. FRC Southwest, NATEC, NAVAIR, and North Island are a model of the rich diversity we see in the southwest region of this great country. Our diversity crosses different ethnic groups, touches a wide swath of generations, engenders numerous levels of educational achievement and accomplishment, and supports a wide variety of lifestyles. We are blessed to have such a rich and diverse culture here in Southern California. Our incredible diversity is what drives the innovative spirit here in the Southwest region, here at Southwest and at North Island. It has helped make us the world's premier aviation depot as well. It is our efforts here with our wide variety of people and personalities that have allowed the warfighters of the United States to fulfill their mission to defend this great nation. As you enjoy today's celebration, be mindful and learn from what you see and hear. I believe with all my heart, the emotional connections you make today through this celebration will make you a better person and a better employee tomorrow. With that goal in mind, the more informed you become simply means we can accomplish our mission better and in turn make our nation's warfighters more confident and more capable when we call on them to perform their mission, which in the end is to protect the very cultural diversity and the celebration that we are celebrating today. Once again, I thank all of you for being here. Thanks to our guest speakers who have traveled great distances to join us. And once again to that fantastic group of pioneers who've made this possible. Back over to you, Sara and Lisa, and let the show begin.
CEO. I mean, he just speaks with so much passion and so much from the heart, and his experience having been a leader for so many years, and I can say working with him, he is truly genuine about recognizing the diversity of all of our employees and the authenticity of all our employees.
There is so much in the LGBT community that people don't realize. There's nurturing, there is loving, there is guidance, there is support, there is comfort. And I stand here today a product of the LGBT community because they loved on me, they cared for me, and here I get to share this historical moment with all of you. I became the first feature reporter of Equality News Network. That's a platform they created to provide LGBT media showcasing our community, specializing in showing what we were about, our stories. When I became that reporter, I had no idea what I was doing. All I did is I knew that I had a passion and a love for media, but most of all my community. So it gives me great honor to be here today. So thank you so much. I'm humbled to be here at the Navy base. I'm excited. Thank you to Lisa Kove, to everyone that put this together. And we have a great panel of speakers today. So I'm going to read their very detailed bios, so I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. So I'm going to make sure I read each individual one. Our first speaker today is going to be Sherry Swakowski. She's a retired Army colonel with 22 years active and 34 years total service. She is the highest ranking openly transgender individual in the country. Colonel Swakowski holds a bachelor's degree in business and a master's degree in management and organizational behavior. She's a graduate of the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and Army War College Strategic Defense Strategy Course, Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Sherry is a career infantry officer, has commanded a light infantry company, deployed twice, served on battalion brigade, state and department level staff. She retired in 2004 as the Director of Personnel and Manpower for the Wisconsin National Guard. Other assignments include Organizational Force Integration Officer, Strategic Planner, Mobilization Planner, and Army ROTC Instructor/Executive Officer at University of WI Stevens Point post-retirement. Colonel Swakowski was a lead course instructor at the U.S. Army Force Management School in Fort Belvoir, Virginia, a senior analyst for the Assistant Chief of Staff and Installation Management at the Pentagon, and a regional human resource director for the U.S. Forest Service School in Colorado. She has been an advocate for transgender civil rights and transmilitary service since she transitioned in 2006. She has worked with the National Center for Transgender Equality and advocated for transgender rights on Capitol Hill. It gives me great pleasure to pronounce to you Colonel Sherry.
Thank you for that very warm introduction. It's great to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today, and congratulations on your inaugural Pride event. That's outstanding. I'd like to welcome all the members of our community that are here, all our allies, and all our friends. I remember well the day in December of 2010 when Congress voted to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I had just left the Pentagon 2 months prior, and that evening on C-SPAN they broadcast the Senate vote. I was on the phone with my very best friend who was still working at the Pentagon. We had developed a unique kinship. He, a gay father of 2 girls, and myself, a trans woman. I think we both screamed and then we cried when that 60th vote was tallied, and we knew it was the end of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It was a day I will always remember, and I suspect some of you sitting in this room will also remember it for a long time. Like many of my trans brothers and sisters, those who have served and those who are serving, I delayed my authenticity to later in life out of love and respect for my family and for the job I loved. When I was able to transition and be my authentic self, I was promptly fired from my position as a lead course instructor at the Army's Force Management School at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. So it was trying times. But good things happen when you wait for them. It was just a matter of months after that I was hired as an analyst and worked with the Assistant Chief of Staff for Installation Management at the Pentagon. I was there for about 2.5 years, and during that time, I was known for the skills I brought to the table and not who I may have been in a previous life. I was post-transition, civilian, and identified as an exceptional performer. And if we can do that on the civilian side of the house, in an environment that many would think extremely conservative at the Pentagon, I know we can do it on the military side as well. Data tells us that there are 68 transgender individuals serving in the military for each 10,000 service members currently serving between the active and reserve components. That amounts to almost 3,000 sailors and over 1,600 Marines. You can do the math in your head for your local community. And don't forget about the 134,000 transgender veterans that are out there. Although I retired 10 years ago, the celebration is just the 3rd time I've been able to wear the uniform. And many retirees look forward to putting on the uniform that played so much a part of their lives when they retire. I couldn't do that until this past April, when I received a new DD-214 from the Army that reads, Sherry Swakowski, Colonel Infantry. The first time I wore the uniform was on June 9th at the Pentagon Pride event. It was a great day. It was standing room only. It probably had something to do with Secretary Carter being the keynote speaker. And it was a wonderful thing to see. The second time I wore the uniform since retiring was just last Wednesday. I was one of 4 transgender service members, including 2 active duty service members, to wear the uniform to the White House Pride celebration and reception. Another historic day. It was a great pleasure to be there, to tell our stories, and to have some visibility about the transgender service members who are serving today, as well as those who have served in the past. I mentioned the Pentagon Pride event June 9th. Was there anyone able to see that? It was streamed worldwide, as I recall. A couple of folks. Just a couple thoughts on that. When I initially left the auditorium there in the basement of the Pentagon, I was disappointed. I was disappointed because Secretary Carter mentioned the word transgender just once and never talked about the current policy. But after sitting back and listening to his speech a couple of days later, it was clear that it was all good. And I say that because the Secretary's commitment to equality, and by equality I mean total equality, is clear. Throughout the speech, he talked about total inclusiveness, no exceptions. That was a bright spot for me. And of course, it's the first time the MEO policy now provides protection for discrimination based on orientation. Not gender identity quite yet, but we'll get there. When I worked in the building, I learned quickly that a lot of communication is cryptic, both verbal and nonverbal. And it's sometimes more important to remove the emotions from what you're hearing and take a more objective look at it. And listen to what is not said and how it is not said, rather than what is said. The Secretary's speech gave me great hope for the transgender community, and I'll just share with you 3 quotes. The first one is, we believe in getting to a place where no one has to serve in silence. The second quote is, discrimination of any kind has no place in America's armed forces. And the third quote, we have to be more tolerant, open, and diverse. I'm an individual who's always believed that actions speak louder than words. Most expected the Secretary of Defense to walk in, deliver his keynote address, and depart like the Deputy SecDef did last year. But Secretary Carter was having none of it. He stayed for the entire event, and that in itself spoke volumes to me. Life is about being authentic. It took me 50 plus years to be my true self. Some wonderful things happen when you become authentic. It makes everything easier. But getting to that point of authenticity can be very tumultuous and painful. Individuals who have taken those steps know the heartbreak of losing loved ones, being ridiculed and scorned, physically harmed, or worse, by others who are unable to understand the gift of diversity. Even after the SCOTUS announcement last Friday about marriage equality, there's still a lot of work to do, particularly when it comes to the transgender community. It's important for us to get up and tell our stories. It's particularly important because while 90% of the general population knows someone who is gay, only 9% knows someone who is transgender. It's wonderful to be with you today to celebrate our authenticity. At the same time, I remind you there are over 15,000 service members serving today who continue to sacrifice their authenticity to serve the country that they love and do the jobs that they love. For them, every day that goes by without a change to the current policy is one day too long. An individual's ability to serve should be based on their character, their qualifications, and their performance. We've had some signs of progress on the transgender side of military service, with the Army and the Air Force raising the adjudication authority to the Pentagon level for their transgender soldiers and airmen. And I understand the Navy announced on June 10th, the day after Pride, that they are considering it. Not sure what the holdup is there, but regardless, I think we will soon find a day when all individuals will be able to serve. And that includes the almost 3,000 transgender sailors and the over 1,600 Marines. So I'm confident that DoD will soon get to that place where no one is forced to serve in silence, and that, in fact, will be a wonderful day. I thank you for your attention, and happy Pride.
A member of Mayor Faulkner's LGBT liaison team here, so we would love to come and have him say a few words.
Well, I got to say that security's tight around here, that's why I'm waiting. I did get here on time, I had a little trouble finding my way, but it's really exciting to be here with you all. And what an important occasion this really is when you think about it. The first time that we're really celebrating Pride here, and I know that individually we celebrate Pride every day with our friends, our families, our colleagues, but to be recognized on this level I think is astounding. I'm looking forward to next year seeing all of the seats filled and then beyond that. As you know, or you may know, Mayor Kevin Faulkner was a co-chair for the Mayors for Freedom to Marry, so we've been in celebration mode since last week. I was at the LGBT Center in Hillcrest, and over 1,100 people showed up. It only fits 300 people. So they had to actually close the doors, and then everyone else took to the street right in front of there. So it's just been a very emotional experience for me, for my friends, hopefully for you all, that we're living this moment in history. And as we just heard, there's so much more to do, and when we think about the transgender community and having those equal rights, protections, acceptance, that's the direction that we're going in. And I think that we took the weekend to celebrate, and now we're ready to keep on fighting. So I'm really happy to be here to share this day with you on behalf of the mayor, and happy Pride, everyone.
Her name is Jacqueline Atkinson. She was raised in a blue-collar, multiracial home in New Jersey. After completing a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, Ms. Atkinson joined the United States Marine Corps, serving as a combat engineer officer stationed at Camp Pendleton from 2000 to 2006. She served as a platoon commander, a company commander, later a staff officer directly in support of Iraqi freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. She transitioned into the USMC IRR to pursue a civilian career in business. And then she entered the California National Guard in 2009, where she was deployed as a Foreign Police Transition Team Advisor in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. She volunteered for an extended tour of CENTCOM Joint Forces, Vulnerability Officer in Charge in direct support of Operations New Dawn and Operation Enduring Freedom. Her military awards include the Bronze Star Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, Joint Commendation Medal, Marine Corps Commendation Medal, Joint Achievement Medal, Presidential Union Citation, and the USMC Combat Action Ribbon. It gives me great pleasure to bring this to you, Jacqueline Atkinson.
Well, it is a privilege to stand with you today at this first annual Pride event at North Island Military Base in America's finest city, San Diego. It's been almost 5 years since the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and following years and years of gay and lesbian service members having to hide who we are. Today we take pride in how we are free to serve our country openly. Looking back, gays and lesbians and transgender have long served our country in uniform. There are countless stories to illustrate our willingness to give the ultimate sacrifice in defense of the country that we love. Many of you know the story of Don't Ask, Don't Tell all too well, not because you read about it in newspapers or heard it mentioned in a speech, but because we lived it day in and day out. Whether you've endured it yourself while serving in uniform, or witnessed its impact on your loved ones or friends, we saw firsthand the burden that it had on countless warfighters and their families. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was contrary to the basic values of America. It has never been easy to compare the altruistic words of our forefathers with the stark realities of history. But what makes our country unique, what gives us strength, is our ability to correct its course. Over the centuries, our democracy has shown that while it is imperfect, it can change, and it can change for the better. Now, on December 18th, in 2002, that change we so greatly awaited for occurred. The US Senate voted 65-31 to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, allowing gays and lesbians to serve openly without the fear of reprisal. Leaders like Harvey Milk, that paved the way for the LGBT community, would be proud of our achievements of today's torchbearers. Today we stand on their shoulders and continue the effort to spread diversity, equality, and inclusion in the depths of our society. LGBT pioneers prove that while we cannot live on hope alone, we cannot or should not live without it. Embracing diversity and inclusion is critical to recruit and retain the force of our future. Young Americans today are diverse, open, and tolerant, much more than past generations. And if we're going to attract the best and brightest, well, we need to contribute to our mission of national defense, and we ourselves have to be willing and open and tolerant also. To the spouses and partners, I want to thank you for your steadfast support of our servicemen and women. What an honor it is for me to stand up here today and publicly acknowledge you and the great service and sacrifice to your families. It is those military spouses that had to live in that circle of silence in our absence. Make no mistake, we still have a lot to do. And after all, repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell was just the beginning. It is not the end of our progression. We still need to work to make sure that we have full equality for every member in our military community. Our work is not going to be done until we ensure that we support and care for our service members and all of their families. Now, as Colin Powell put it best, the day that soldiers stop bringing you their problems is the day that you have stopped leading them. They've either lost confidence in you or have concluded that you just do not care. Either case, it's a failure of leadership. So let us never fail in our duty as the leaders of the next generation. Thank you.
The next speaker is going to be Mr. Fred Carter. Fred Carter is an American political consultant, gay rights activist, watchdog, political pundit, writer, public speaker, author, former actor, and 2012 candidate for the Republican nomination for president. Carter worked on 10 presidential campaigns and served as a senior consultant during the campaigns of President Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and Gerald Ford. Carter was a partner in the Dolphin Group, a California-based political consulting firm, for 27 years. He retired in 2004 and has since worked as an LGBT activist. He began in 2006 trying to save Laguna Beach, California landmark gay bar, the Boom Boom Room. In 2008, he founded Californians Against Hate, No Rights, Equal Rights, and led boycotts of 4 of the biggest donors to California Proposition 8. He successfully settled 3 of those boycotts. Carter has been interviewed on numerous national, international, and local television, radio, and web shows, including Rachel Maddow, David Frost, Thomas Roberts, Chris Matthews, and Fox Business Channel, CBS News, ABC News, and many more. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Fred Carter.
Hey, Lisa. Sara, congratulations, and thank you one and all for turning out. This takes a tremendous amount of courage, and I'm well aware of that. It's an exciting time to be lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender in America. What a week. We now have equality in all 50 states on marriage. We've got a lot more to do. Just yesterday, the Veterans Administration announced full recognition for spouses and partners of same-sex marriages, which is going to be a huge step forward. So we're seeing the sky is not falling in as great things happen. I'm an accidental activist, as you heard. I got involved just across the bay, really in 2008, when I got angry, like many of you in this room, when we saw that a businessman, hotel owner named Doug Manchester gave $125,000 to qualify and pass Proposition 8. And I decided that we should not give our money to someone who's going to use it against us. So I partnered with Unite Here, Local 11, and many others in San Diego to boycott Manchester's hotel. Well, he regretted that contribution. He ended up losing $1 million a month, they admitted, and we ended up settling that boycott. We did another boycott of another San Diegan, Terry Castor, who thought it great to give $691,000 to pass Prop 8, and I think he regrets that decision. We then went after the Mormon Church, the National Organization for Marriage, and many other groups, businessmen and women who decided to stop our equality. I became the bad boy of the LGBT civil rights movement. And then in 2010, I began a quest, which is something I'd always wanted to do, run for political office. As you heard, I worked on 10 political campaigns. I never, ever thought, like I never dreamed that I'd be able to get married in this country. I never thought I could ever run for office because I had a very deep, dark secret that I was gay. And I did a pretty good job of masking that, I thought, for decades. But once I came out during the Prop 8 campaign, there was nothing holding me back. So what did I do? I decided to go for the top office in the land and to be the first openly gay candidate to ever seek the nomination for President of the United States of either major political party. I did it with some of you in this room and a lot of help. We ended up being on 6 state ballots, including California and Utah, beat Michelle Bachmann in New Hampshire, where I based my campaign. We beat Ron Paul in Puerto Rico, and we ended up making a difference. And to this day, I still hear from a number of younger LGBT members from around the country that thanking what we've done for opening the door. Because I wanted to send the message, there are no more limits in this country. There's nothing you can't do if you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. You can even run for President of the United States. I know we have a lot to go over on the panel. We've got some exciting things on the docket to do to take the marriage equality to the next level. There's still many problems in this country and many more around the world. But I pledge to all of you today that I will not give up this fight. I will continue to take on our opponents like the National Organization for Marriage, the Mormon Church, the Family Research Council, anybody who wants to deny our equality, to deny our self-esteem, and they will not prevail. We will. Thank you very much for coming.
What we're going to do now is we're going to ask some panel questions. So we're just going to pose some questions to each of our speakers, and we're also going to open up the floor so if you have a question you'd like to ask any of the speakers. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start with each of you. So Fred, we'll start with you and we'll go down the line. First question is, explain what the LGBTQ and allied community mean.
Explain.
Explain.
It's a very diverse community, as I've seen all over this country. I've traveled to nearly every state, spoken before many groups, high school groups, college groups, and I'm so encouraged. And when I can go to a high school in New Hampshire and see a transgender high school student in their GSA there, courageously standing up for her rights, coming out in high school at a very young age, which so many of us were unable to do, it gives me great pleasure in seeing that the country is moving in the right direction, that we will have great equality in this nation, and it's going to take a little education of some of our opponents, but I think we're moving in the right direction at lightning speed.
Just to add to that a little bit, I'd like to acknowledge really the importance of our allies. We can't do it without you, especially in the transgender community, because there's too few of us. So you play a monumental role as well, and thank you very much for doing so.
And I would like to add to that, certainly the LGBT community, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, questioning community, and our straight allies. And I was at an event just recently, and they did something remarkable there. And it's the opposite of the way that a lot of us had to live. So at this time, I would like our straight allies to come out. So please raise your hand if you're a straight ally. And we have hands. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support, and we certainly could not be here today without our straight alliance.
Second question is, explain what equality has been accomplished.
Sorry. Well, you just saw most recently that gays and lesbians have been able to, through SCOTUS decision, to marry. And personally, and California passed it some time ago, but my wife, my future wife, is actually in the first row supporting me, and she's also a member of your military community. She's a battalion commander for the 40th Infantry Division. I'm very proud of her, and now as an Army wife. she's decided she will marry me in November, former Jarhead.
Well, I'm not sure I can top that. Well, where you talk about what's been accomplished, it's also important to keep our eye on what hasn't been accomplished yet. And we continue to make inroads, but there's more work to do out there. And one of the top priorities for me, of course, is the transgender military ban and getting that overturned. So one step forward and maybe 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we'll continue to keep our boots on the ground and marching forward.
It was interesting on Friday when I, like all of us, heard that the ripple of that decision by the Supreme Court, a little closer than I had predicted I would have liked, but nonetheless, a huge victory. That message is more than just marriage equality. And I've argued that all along. Yes, we now have the right to marry whomever we love and want to marry in this country. But more importantly, think of that message that that sends to LGBT youth, not just in this country, but all over the world. You're no longer a second-class citizen. You're equal. You have the same rights as your brother or your sister or your best friend. And that message to people struggling with their sexuality is so important and so necessary to hear that so many of us can relate to. And what that would be like if I were a 14-year-old hearing that news. So as we continue to fight with our friends and allies, members of our community, for more equal rights, more equality, more embracing, we will do a huge service for so many Americans and so many in the other 200 countries around the world, that very few of which have any of the rights that we do.
Thank you. Next question. Explain where and what are the voids you feel are inequality today?
Well, the voids we're hearing about it, as Sherry just expressed. We need to work as hard as we did for ending Don't Ask, Don't Tell for gays and lesbians, for the transgender community in the military. And there's legislation being introduced, I think, by Mike Honda, who has a transgender granddaughter, which is terrific. I'm sure he'd be a wonderful ally anyway, but these are the kind of strides that we need to make. And how tremendous has Caitlyn Jenner been for the transgender cause and community and her courage in coming out. She was at New York Pride. She is, of course, has a reality show, which you can imagine what that's going to be doing as far as changing hearts and minds in this country. So the LGBT community has another great leader and spokesperson, as we've had throughout our history, people courageously coming out who are public figures, and that's going to really, really make a difference.
Just a couple of words. In addition to the transgender military ban, the real void that bothers me the most is the bullying, the harassment that goes on in the transgender community. Last week I lost a friend to suicide. She was 31, she was an Air Force veteran, E6, and just left the service in 2013. And frankly, very talented individual that couldn't find a position, a job. So that's the part that really bothers me, is the discrimination that transgender people face, continue to face. That's why it's so important to get out there and tell our stories. And I want to touch base a little bit locally here. I'm sure, I'd like to believe you're all aware that you've lost 3 San Diego transgender teenagers in about a 90-day period this year. I think it was April, May, and June. And it's due to the bullying. It's due to a large variety of reasons, and we've got to stop that. And the way we stop it is to tell our stories and to educate people and to let them know that we're just like everybody else. We're you name it, doctors, lawyers, commercial airline pilots. I was interviewed earlier, made a comment about fighter pilots, I guess. And I said, well, I know at least 3 transgender fighter pilots that that served honorably and with distinction. So we're just like everybody else, we're people.
As a caveat to the concerns, certainly LGBT has a high rate of suicide rates, but as a community, certainly a military community, we have together a high rate of suicides in the military. And with acceptance and tolerance and working together, we try to mitigate the amount of suicides that we have in the military. So that's a great concern of mine. But certainly within the LGBT community, we do have an alarming rate of transgender committing suicides. That's disturbing. But we have to move forward. We have to, inclusion and tolerance, work together on the issues at hand to ensure that we have the strongest national defense, a strong military, and we have to do that together.
Next question. In the case of the equality movement, what inspires you about our newest generation of young people?
The younger generation is much more tolerant, inclusive, and accepting. So with that said, that excites me because we will be able to go into many communities and retain and recruit the best and the brightest.
I'm most impressed by the courage and the heart of the young children that are coming out as transgender right now. More and more are coming out and being supported by their parents. They understand the dire consequences if they don't support their kids. So it's about school boards and school policies and getting those things enacted to make sure that transgender people in the school systems are protected. I also have to give a little plug here. When I talk about courage, it took me 50 plus years to come out and be authentic. And I am so enamored, I am so awestruck by the active duty people that are coming out as transgender. And I had the opportunity last week to spend some time with Senior Airman Logan Ireland and his fiancée, Army Corporal Leila Villanueva. There's an infantry sergeant up in the 4th Division by the name of Patricia King at Fort Carson. And I have a good friend, Major Dr. Jamie Henry at Walter Reed, who's also transgender and out on active duty in the service. They're pushing the envelopes. I'm hoping that they don't meet the same fate as Landon Wilson did, one of your Navy cryptologists that was pulled off the line in Afghanistan back in 2012. Landon was assigned to a unit in the Pacific in Hawaii and decided to transition when he went as an individual to Afghanistan. And did a heck of a job over there. After 30 days, they wanted to make sure he was promoted. They called back to the parent unit in Hawaii and said, we want to promote Landon. We want to make sure he gets everything that's due to him. Doing a great job for us. And the parent unit said, we didn't send you a male, we sent you a female. And so 30 days, 35 days into his tour, he was a tap on the shoulder while he's watching a special operations event take place, and he's pulled off, he's pulled out, he's sent back to Hawaii, he's promoted, and then he's discharged. So we spent probably $500,000 training him as a cryptologist and showed him the door. And we need to make some more common sense decisions when it comes to transgender service members. And I think the Pentagon is on the right road to doing that. But we need to do it sooner as opposed to later.
I was demonstrating during the Prop 8 campaign the weekend before the vote in Los Angeles. And for the first time, there was an organized by the campaign effort, and mostly younger people out on Santa Monica Boulevard up there. And I sensed a lot of anger. You could just tell it in the body language, holding the signs up, screaming at cars. And I said, if we lose, there's going to be a lot of upset people out there. Well, I had no idea what Prop 8's loss for us, the passage of Prop 8 in California, what that would do for this movement here in California, around the country, and around the world. There were 230 demonstrations 10 days after our loss in capitals, in cities, at city halls all over. I think San Diego's march had something like 18,000. Who are those people? I went to several of those marches, and they're younger people. So we lit the fire. That, I said in interviews after our loss, which I never, ever had said in political world I've lived in for 40 years, that was, I'm glad we lost, because we have now awakened a sleeping giant, and the giant is our youth, and they are not taking it, and they're not just LGBT, they're our allies, like we're seeing so many today, and so that is our secret weapon. That is going to take us to full equality in the 31 states where we need to go pass anti-discrimination laws in housing and the workplace, which is now underway, city by city, county by county, state by state, until we get the federal relief at that as well.
And our final question, how important is it to be authentic?
I think I can't say it any better than Sherry. For me, as a closeted gay man for all those years, for all those meetings, hearing gay jokes and almost being flattered that they could tell a gay joke in front of me, that I was a good enough actor, that I had people fooled. What that did on the inside of me for my whole life, all the weddings I would go to, all the weddings I stood up for, knowing that I could never walk down that aisle, what does that do to your self-esteem? It destroys it. So being authentic, coming out of the closet publicly, which is not the situation for most people, but for me, but for just being yourself, coming out, being authentic with your friends and your family, and then that acceptance and embrace, there's nothing like it. There are no limits then. And so it's the best advice. It's very easy to say once we've crossed that line, but it's a very personal decision for everyone, and I just hope that in time everyone will make that decision in his or her life and just be who you are.
I don't think I can follow that up, add much to it. Like my partner here, I suppress things for decades rather than deal with it. That's not a good way to live. It creates so much stress. It's so much better when you are authentic. And like we said, it's a personal decision. Everyone has to choose their own time and space if they in fact want to get there. So I can tell you for me personally, the last 10 years have been the very happiest of my life. And I don't regret anything. I don't regret who I was in the prior life, but it's so much better now.
I agree. Authenticity is one of the basic tenets of leadership. If you're out there trying to pretend to be something you're not, you will fail. And we know this as leaders because if we try to be something that we're not, our sailors, soldiers, Marines, airmen will see right through us. And at the end of the day, people just want you to be happy. People that you love just want you to be happy. There is no reason not to be authentic. You have to be who you are in order to succeed in life.
Let's give it up for our panel of speakers. What I want to leave you with, and I hope that you took from this event, is I hope that we've inspired you to live courageous. Whether you identify as LGBT, whether you're an ally, whatever it is in your journey, we hope that we inspired you to be courageous in your walk. Speak your truth. The world needs it. The world needs voices that are going to be verbally out there. The world needs your stories, it needs your journeys to inspire change. The younger generation needs it. They need to know that they're not alone. They need to know that there's people who have been through it and who have survived it. And without speaking that, you give them no hope. So speak your journeys, speak your truth. The other thing I want to leave you is we're all human beings. When you poke us, we all bleed red. Whether we identify as LGBT or not, we are all the same. So whether you have a coworker, a family member, the biggest fear is the fear of the unknown. But once you uncover that fear and you start to really get to know someone, you'll see a whole new perspective. And after all, we're all human beings. So I thank you for having me today. And again, live your life and live it out loud and proud.
Chief Windwalker from the Cherokee Nation would like to get on the podium and just say a few words about being two-spirited.
Wendy again. I just want to say that we were the first people to be here. We were also the first people to accept LGBT. They were our medicine people. I have a lesbian daughter and a bi daughter. I'm very proud of both of them. The medicine people are the same as anyone else. And it's time that even the native culture has to understand that it was so accepted that it wasn't a question of who people were or what they need to be. They were always encouraged. And today, every day I work with transgender children who are confused and very suicidal. Right now, our Native American is 75% suicide of our children from bullying and not accepting who they are. Not only in the outside world, but even in their own culture, where we've lost our way. I stand before you very proud, and always will be proud, to stand up for the LGBT. Lisa, Wanishi Wado, for this opportunity to know, and I want all of you to know, that as a chief, as a woman, and as an ally, I honor and respect every and each one of you. Oho will continue. Oho.
Don't stand no cheek on my baby. My baby don't stand no cheek. She don't like none of that late night creeping. True little baby. My baby. Oh, she loves me. I know she loves me, my baby. My baby, I know she loves me. She don't do nothing but kiss and hug.